Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the End of Celts podcast. I hope everyone is keeping well who's listening. I'm delighted to be joined by Francis, a show regular. How are you, Francis?
Aye, all good, Stephen. All good yourself.
I'm fine, buddy. We're going to suck into some topics. There's plenty of talking points anyway,
Yeah.
and we're also delighted to be joined by William. How are you, William? Another show regular.
I'm all right, mate. I'm surviving just about.
Tell me about it. But I think it's every Celtics fan just worst nightmare this season, isn't it? Really, to be honest, guys, it's just the dead rubbers until the end of the season. Just
Yeah.
you just want to
Horrendous.
check out now, but unfortunately, it can't happen that way. But looking at the game last night, yeah, against Aberdeen. Before we even get stuck into the game, I want your opinion. I'll go to yourself, Francis, first. What did you think of that lineup when it came out?
I mean, the lineup, like Kennedy hinted, he was going to make maybe not plenty changes, but he was going to make a few changes more than the two that he made. Then he obviously brings in Beaton because he's forced because Ayer's obviously injured, and then I'm not even counting Taylor as a change because Stevie Wonder could see that Hangway Laxalt couldn't have played that game. I just thought it was a great opportunity to bring maybe Sorrow in for Brown. Maybe even Rogic for McGregor because McGregor could be doing with a rest at the end of the day, so it was a good opportunity for that. And then after seeing Dembele, why not? Could just play him? Maybe even just for the first 45 minutes. Gives you a wee bit of width out wide. I would like a Yeti to come in for Edward as well, but I think simply just to try and keep Edward's value up, you've just got to stick with him even though he's playing garbage.
You said that to me yesterday on the chat.
I know.
And I like, what value has this man got at the moment?
I know, but I
must
think
be-
if you stop playing, we all know he's got to leave in the summer, barring a miracle, and somehow he'll stay. But and teams will know this, so they're going to come in with low offers. But if you stop playing him, the offers are probably going to be a wee bit lower because you're just
Yeah.
not playing him. So it's like I don't know. You maybe just got to keep him in just to try and keep a couple million on it.
at the moment, for me anyway, we'll be lucky to recoup the 9 million was spent on him. And then you have to factor in the 30% or 40%
I don't know how true
that.
that's. Don't know how true that is, but I mean that's a ludicrous
Well,
selling fee if it's true.
We don't know if anything's true. Don't it's
Yeah.
everything's there. But what about yourself, William? When that lineup came out, for me, it was just so uninspiring. Seeing the likes of Kenny still getting the game, and he bores me to death. I always say it, but I don't mean to single him out. He's just the most boring football I've ever seen. And then you go into the midfield, and Christie's still getting the start. And as you rightly said, Francis Taylor's not really a change. He's our best left back at the moment. Laxalt was shambles against Rangers. But what did you think of it?
I was gobsmacked, to be honest. I was talking about it to boys at work, and these are all dead rubbers. I couldn't believe. I think we all know that it's well publicised. It looks like Eddie's going to go in the summer. I can't believe we weren't playing the likes of Griffiths and Ayeti or these guys to try and show their worth for next season. The problem this year is there's not been much competition, or well, maybe there is competition, but I don't know if it's favourites or because this team's done so much in the last few years. But even the likes of we're talking about Bruni, he's gone again next year as well. I don't understand why we're not playing Sorrow. I don't know if it's a bit of a farewell playing him in all these games. Kalmak again, he's not performed this year, but he's never ever been dropped. The likes of Christie and all that as well. All these players, Edwards, the prime example. For weeks and weeks and weeks now, he's not been performing, and I know we've talked about it before on previous podcasts about he's got this lackadaisical attitude, and that's the way he is, and that's the way he plays. But whenever he's been shocking, he's never been dropped. These guys have never been dropped, so they're just turning up and getting a start every week. Why? I don't understand why. They should be putting other guys in. I was hoping to God we were getting either Griffiths or Ayeti up front and playing some of the youth. I mean, Franny touching it there. Dembele looked great when he came on, a bit of flair, and he was every time he got the ball, he was wanting to attack the fullback. We've not had that at all this season, and the big build up and to the game was talking about the 2 or 3 youth players that he had on the bench, Montgomery and stuff, I think. And they didn't even get 10 minutes. What's the point putting them on the bench? You know what I mean? And like we're talking, these are all dead rubbers. When we look at next season, why are we not playing some of these guys when the the players that are playing and haven't performed all year, one, and most of them look like they're going to be off at the end of the year. So it just baffles me. I couldn't believe it when I seen the start lineup.
See, just to talk like with your Edward one, like obviously being like, I think he looks worse now. It's like he doesn't seem to care. He's not putting his boot in where he might get hurt and things like that now. That I've noticed. Whereas he'd be a lot sharp. It doesn't look as sharp. But it just looks pure laziness for him at times. I just feel like he's getting through games.
Yeah, it's almost like a thing for the whole team. There's no one that actually gets stuck in. I've noticed it especially the last couple of weeks coming towards the end of the season. No one is actually putting the foot in. Even go back to the centre backs and stuff. And I know Young Wells gives us all and stuff, but I mean, it shouldn't be all put in his shoulders. There's the likes of Ayer there and stuff, and you're totally right about Edward. This is pure laziness. I mean,
you know what? See towards the end of the game where Turnbull had that wee kick out of that boy.
McGee. I like that a wee bit.
I like that. I was like, you know what? He cares.
He
actually cares. He's hating the fact that we're not winning this game, and he's getting frustrated. I didn't see that for anybody else.
A wee bit. We was wondering how we never got a red card. I think it would have been a soft one, but like he's literally just booted him. He's booted him.
Yeah, it was
I liked a wee bit. I liked a bit to an extent.
Yeah, it was a cynical foul, like, but I get what you're saying, William. It's the type of passion that we're lacking. I know it was done obviously in the wrong way. He fouled your man, and it was evident he did. But looking at the game as well. Now, for me, I actually had to ask you guys before we come on how did Aberdeen score, because I just totally forgot the game.
Surely you could have guessed it, but
the game just went out of my head, and as you rightly said, it's a carbon copy of basically all the set piece goals we've conceded. A flick on at the front post and someone coming at the back post, no one marking him, and Ferguson put it away. But what about Francis Kennedy? For me, William, you have said there's been improvement. I'll actually go to you first for this. You said there's been improvement. Surely to God, that puts to bed any improvement that you saw.
Yeah, the last two performances, I definitely have. I thought like we were looking better at the back, and but it was 2 or 3 games. I know it was only even it was the first Rangers game. I thought we looked decent. We made plenty of chances, in the league game, and then I know it was just Falkirk and Levy, but I thought we looked a bit more sure at the back, and we were being more clinical. But the cup game again and the derby game was, I don't know what that performance was. I don't even know what to call it. If you can't get up for that game, a derby and the Scottish Cup, where this is our do or die for their season because we're trophyless. If you can't get up for that, you can't get up for anything, and the team didn't turn up. And then it was the exact same on Wednesday night in the Aberdeen game, just a carbon copy. Yet again, it's been the story of our season, creating plenty of chances, not clinical enough. Set piece, conceding again. We could have and probably should have conceded more. Yep. It's just again, and you know, it's not even anger anymore. You can't even get angry anymore. It's a puff of the cheeks and here we go again. Just want a season to end right now and go again next year.
It's almost it's like a acceptance, isn't it? That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And as you rightly said, William, if you can't get up for a Glasgow derby game, be motivated, be determined to win that game, and especially in the Scottish Cup. So it wasn't a dead rubber. That was our only real chance of silverware this season, which has just gone up in flames again. We didn't turn up. We didn't show up.
See, but for that performance, even if Wednesday night wasn't a dead rubber, I would have dropped at least 8 of the players. Not one of them performed.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And see as well, Francis, I'm struggling to think of a big game that Celtic have won this season. I think in the majority of big games we've either drew or we've lost, or we've been in winning positions and drew the game. And you're thinking back to last season when we're beating Lazio home the way, and you look at now, it's a far cry of what we were. And even last season there was cracks begin to show in the Celtic team, especially in the League Cup final against Rangers. But looking at the game as well, William, you rightly said Aberdeen could have scored more goals. There was points in that game. I think Ferguson was 1-on-1 and he hit the post, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
There was a point when Johnny Hayes took the ball from when we were having the corner, ran the length of the pitch, and only because he gassed out at the end and fell over, he could have scored. So there's another chance. But what's your reaction to it? Because what I was looking for was a reaction from Celtic, the players at least. I mean, the majority of them players started the derby game the weekend. and there was absolutely nothing to say that they cared remotely about what just happened.
I mean, the only thing worse in the game for me was my stream that I was watching it on. My stream was pretty bad, but I mean, again, it was just the story of the season. Like, we had, I think we had over 20 shots, but it was in single figures on target. Again, missing good chances and all that, and then conceding for a set piece. Just again, story of our season. Edward misses 2 gilt-edge chances. The one where Tumble plays that nice wee dink crossover and that, and he gets. I mean, and Edward's defence, he gets a good contact on it, but he really should be getting that. He's about 8 yards out in the middle of the goal. He should be putting that either side of the goalkeeper and scoring. And then he had the one where he had a couple of nice wee touches in the first in the box. Again, sort of 10 yards out. Then he just sclaffs at a shot. 'Cause it just looked like he was scared to get hurt. So he just kind of just toe poked at the shot and just kind of sclaffed it wide in that. But it's just there's just no conviction in the team in that. Like you say, no heart. Just well, I wouldn't say no heart. It just feels like feels and looks like they're not trying. And then, like we alluded to, that Tumbles one when he kicks the ball, it's a wee bit we liked it because it was like he showed like he actually cared a wee bit. And then a wee bright spark obviously was Dembele coming on, like William touched on. He was every time. I can't think of any time he didn't want to go forward. There was a couple of times obviously had to check back, but I think that showed a wee bit of intelligence for him. He was trying to keep the ball and he was turning back, and there was actually times where there was nobody near him to actually help him out. You're like, the guys came on, just you can't be putting it on his shoulders here. But yeah. I like the fact that he always looked initially to go by his man, and then he seemed to have a wee bit of awareness, like I say, he cut back if he realised I'm not going to get by the ball, I'll cut back and look for help. Generally wasn't there a lot, but it was good. And Griffiths' goal was good, to be fair. It was a nice poacher's goal, but it's just Groundhog Day again.
Yeah,
Groundhog Day with Celtic.
I get what you're saying about Dembele, but for me, to get the best out of Dembele, start him in that game. Simple.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Start him in the game.
I agree with that.
Do you know what I mean? But because as William said, you both said actually they're dead rubbers now. So effectively, you can get away with that type of experimentation.
I'd potentially put. I reckon we should play Barkas for the rest of the season just to see.
Yes.
There's no pressure on it. There's no pressure on it now.
The weird thing was, Barkas wasn't even on the bench, which was strange. But he was in the stands along with the subs. So I don't understand what's going on. Dembele, yes, he was a bright spark, and he was taking the full back on, and he was drifting into space as well. There was one point where he came up on the left hand side and flashed a shot across goal. But to see these young guys, these are the types of games Celtic should play them in. And before we move on to other topics, I know we've touched on it before, but I've heard it come up again. So we've seen Lee Griffiths score the poacher's goal, as Francis said. For me, that still doesn't warrant that he should be a Celtic next season.
No, he still looked unfit. He still looked something. Yeah. It looked like he was carrying weight as well.
He was on the pitch for 30 minutes. He came on the 60-minute mark, and I think that was his only real opportunity. And yes, people will say that's what a striker does and put it in the net. But what about yourself, William? I'm still on firm. I don't think, for me, Griffiths has a future at Celtic.
Yeah, well, like you say, we've talked about it in the past, and I think it just all depends on what we've got next year. If Eddie goes, there's Klamala just went. We're short. I don't like. For me, I'd give him the rest of the games this season to prove himself. Getting on for 10, 15, 20 minutes a game is not enough for you to show what you're capable of. And like you said, he's popped up there. To be fair, he's probably covered more ground in 20 minutes than Edward did the rest of the game. So.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And it was a cracking goal, to be fair. I can't see Edward scoring that. We have a joke and a laugh about me sitting on the fence a lot of the time, but I'm firmly on the fence in this one because I'm a massive Lee Griffiths fan. We've talked about it before how he's the best finisher in the league on his day, and he showed he can pop up with a goal like that. I would be inclined to, in the situation we're in, unless we've got targets in mind or we're talking, I'd be inclined to maybe keep him another year. Just on the fact that we are looking short in that area. If we've got targets and a wealth of targets and we bring 2 or 3 guys in, then it would go with my best wishes, but I wouldn't want to leave ourselves short. I think there was a season with Ronnie in charge, and I think Griffiths was like our only striker that we had available that year. Luckily for us, I think he scored 40 odd goals or something. But we can't leave ourselves short. Next season's massive. So I would be inclined to give him another year. But saying that, I'd maybe sit him down and say, listen, I'm going to give you this run of games between now and the end of the season. You need to prove to me that you're wanting to be the number one. You need to prove to me you're going to be our number 9. But then again, he's had countless chances, and we know he's been a bit of an idiot in the past. So it's a strange one. It's one of them. But again, it depends on who the new manager is and what he's wanting and the style he's going to do. But yet again, I'm sure we'll discuss it later on. Absolutely nothing from the board. We're all left in the dark yet again, and I'm actually sick to the back teeth. I love this podcast, but I'm sick to the back teeth of coming on here and talking over and over again about this same non-communication. We're all in the dark. We've no clue what's going on. And that's us as fans. If you're a player going out there as well, and you imagine how they're feeling. Like nobody has an absolute Scooby-Doo. What is going on? I can't fathom the fact we've not got someone in to see out this season and put the building blocks in place, put his philosophy in. There's guys here that we feel are underperforming just now, but somebody to come in, bit of motivation, put his philosophy on, these guys can bloom again, and they might not go, and like it's already happened with Bruni. It's just unfathomable. I just still can't believe we're discussing this now when we've been discussing this for 2 months. How long have we been doing for?
2 months.
Crazy,
2 months.
man.
2 months. Lennon was like, well.
Yeah, 8 weeks. I see as well, touching upon it, Lee Griffiths, before we move on. Yes, I would give him the run of games, but I would potentially take him up front with Vietti to see if they can form any sort of partnership.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah, and another thing that people don't seem to factor in with these loan signings, I don't know if Celtic would face financial penalties if they don't play these loan signings. Do you know whether you agree to a certain amount of games if they're going to be first team starters with their parent club? So
I think that
maybe,
would only happen in maybe a smaller club. Like, say, going for a big club, going to a smaller club, they'd say, "I needs to play X amount of games." Yeah. I can't see the type of things being surely.
Well, then, if that's not happening, there is no excuses for the likes of Kenny and stuff to be still playing.
No.
And this may be unpacked. Ralston, give him a go. Just put him in. Kenny's
I'll never forgive Ralston when we were getting beat 5 or 6-0 against PSG, and he's laughing at Neymar, and I'm like, mate, we're getting gubbed here at Parkhead, and you're laughing at Neymar.
I get that 100%, but you have to think of it this way: we're basically getting a right back for another club fit for them next season, and he's shite. He's shite. There's no point to play him.
I know, but I would play him before Ralston. To be honest, I just don't rate Ralston.
Well, here's what it is: Celtic Football Club. If you're listening, I'm a free agent. I can play right back. I'll do it till the end. No problem. But
I'll be your agent, and I'll get you a good deal.
But the way I'm looking at it as well. It's the season's dwindled out. Celtic's died with a whimper this season. We thought the Scottish Cup could reignite them, but again, there's no determination. There's no fire in their bellies, and that can only come from a new direction. And touched upon Aberdeen, I actually seen a big difference in the way they used to play with McInnes and now with Stephen Glass. And he's only really took possession a week and a half after his COVID isolation thing. We have to when you're moving countries, but you can see Aberdeen playing with the ball at the back, which I've never seen before. And I thought at times Celtic couldn't really cope with the way they're playing because they were probably expecting Aberdeen to lump the ball forward for flick-ons, but that didn't happen. And as I said, numerous times Aberdeen get in behind us and they could have scored more, maybe 3 or 4 goals easily. But moving on from that shambles of the game and the shambles of the week we're already having, we'll go on to the other news that we've seen. That Dominic Mackay was starting his role at Celtic while shadowing Peter Oil, as people are led to believe. He started on Monday. And William Brighty said there's been still no communication from the board, apart from the odd tweet about Kamal leaving today, the odd happy birthday, and on this day. And today they put up a random tweet about Kieran Tierney making his debut for Celtic, which you're like, what's not what we're actually looking for? We're looking for clarification on what's happening with the club. But I'll go to yourself, William. Were you expecting something, as it stands now, we're on Thursday evening, were you expecting an announcement that Mackay started or an address to the fans, anything at all?
No, not with this board. No, not at all. Don't tell us anything. I don't think you can place as much on him. He's only getting his feet in the door, but no, I didn't expect anything at all from them. Like the communication, as we've discussed, has just been non-existent. So the only communication, I know I had a bit of rant in one of the previous podcasts about I know John's quite. I don't know if the word hopeful is right enough, but he's got it in his mind that Howe's already agreed and it's going to come. And we were discussing about how we've had no word from Howe or Sky Sports, Sky Sports or Celtic.
You all jumped at me for that.
I don't know if we'll touch it, but there is like certain reasons why he maybe he's not done it. Because there's like, it could be on, instead of getting a lump sum, folks stay on the payroll. Because Pochettino stayed on Tottenham's payroll for about 18 months and couldn't accept a job for 12 months. Or he lost all his money. So there could be complications.
We've got something in place and somebody's coming in.
I agree with that, but they maybe can't say, oh, it's how, because then he could be losing tens of thousands of pounds at the end of the day.
Well, then buy it out. Buy out that contract.
That's up to Celtic and that, but to say that there is obviously technicalities of why sometimes a manager or sometimes things can't happen.
I understand that, but like for all we know, Roy Keane could be. He could have it verbally agreed. You know what I mean? But the problem is the only communication from Celtic was that Dermot Desmond interview, which was ridiculous. And he basically told the fans to shut up and you'll find out when you find out. So to answer your question, Stephen, no, I didn't expect anything. I've as Dermot Desmond said, we'll keep quiet, be patient, we'll find out when we find out, and that's that.
It just shows again the way we've been treated as fans this season. I don't seem to understand why they can't see that there's fans out there who love Celtic and want the best for Celtic and just want communication, spending £600 on shit streams, as Francis said, with no added value, as they spoke about. They were going to give the fans all season, but we've seen nothing. And these disastrous running results, stretching all the way back to the start of the season, European, right until now, the last two results especially, it's been an absolute joke. And I think they're in for a rude awakening if they think the Celtic fans will hop on this bandwagon and renew their season tickets without knowing who the manager is. Now, I know there is the hardcore element to Celtic fans who will follow Celtic no matter what. And yes, I can see that happening. I mean, for me, I said to myself all day yesterday, I'm not going to watch the game. But I ended up watching the game because it's just, when Celtic are playing, you have to watch it. You have to see it somehow. But Francis, surely there has to be something before the end of this week. Now, it's Friday tomorrow, so there's one more day for something to come out. There has to be something, surely.
Well, and Mackay's defence, like William said, he's just a door, so I'm not expecting much from him. But I also expect him to be kind of silent now as well, because Kennedy's obviously came out and said he's got to have a meeting with him tomorrow. Now, obviously, Kennedy's not got to go into the ins and outs in the media of what that meeting is. He might not know, but he's not got to go. And it wouldn't be fair in Dominic Mackay coming out before that meeting, because he's just got to get bombarded with who's the manager, where's the club going, what's happening, this and that, and if he's not then spoke to Kennedy first, who, apart from the fans, I would say Kennedy right now, if he's got a chance of being the manager, which I appreciate, we all hope not, but if he's not going to be the manager, he should be the first to know. He should find out from Mackay that go, look, we're going to go in a different direction, but we're giving you a wee bit of courtesy and we'll tell you first. Then you've got to come. Then I think he should be coming out after Friday. So I don't know what time this meeting is. So like, it'd been an ideal situation, I guess. Tomorrow evening, sometime. Maybe the fans will be a wee bit clearer on what's happening with Kennedy, because I think it's kind of fair on him. It's unfair on him if he's unawares of what's happening, like we all seem to be. But yeah, I wasn't really expecting much from Mackay until he's actually spoke to Kennedy. Just out of courtesy for Kennedy, I don't think it's fair on him not know, because like I said, he'll just get bombarded about messages, then say he slips up, then Kennedy's finding out in the media before he actually speaks to the guy where his future lies.
I don't see the problem is here. Sorry, Stephen. See the longer the board leave this, right, the more pressure they're building on themselves. So I agree with that. To be patient, right? So we're all, because of the time they're taking, we're expecting, I think it's fair to say, the general consensus and the majority of the fans want Eddie Howe in, right? So at the end of all this, if we've got Eddie Howe in the door, then all's forgotten, right? But the amount of time they're taking, they're increasing the pressure on themselves. Stephen's talked about the backlash. Can you imagine we've waited all this time and then he goes and announces Harkin with Maresca as manager?
No, I get that as well, but to sort of flip it, you could say they're doing proper due diligence on candidates.
Don't give me
I mean,
that. Do not
but you
give me
could-
that
you
absolute pish.
How?
Don't.
It's not pish. It's only pish if you end up with a Maresca in that. I get.
Look,
I get.
this is what I always try and say to you on the group chat. Lenny's left for 8 weeks. The
Yeah.
board should have had this recruitment process in well before Christmas. The
Agreed.
season was tits up. The due diligence can happen from before Christmas till now.
Agreed.
This process has been madness. We've had our shortlist from the bookies. We haven't had Celtic come out even saying that the interview process is underway, or they've got 2 or 3 preferred candidates. You'll find out in a few weeks.
I could be taking a risk here, but I believe Dermot Desmond said he's got candidates in his statement. I believe he said there's guys he's been interviewing. I could be miles off there, but I believe that's what he said. I'm sure he said that.
So, Francis, right, we've seen the catastrophe this season. Why are you still trusting this board?
I'm not saying I'm trusting them. I'm not saying I'm trusting them. I'm just throwing things out there what could be stopping announcements being made. Something like managers undercut might not be at a club, but they're still on the payroll, so there's legalities there of why you can't announce folk and stuff like that. So it's just throwing wee things out there what could hold up potential deals.
Yeah, no, but I 100% get that. But William, I'm firmly on the thing, as you said. Don't say the name of the manager necessarily, but say someone's coming in, or someone's coming in at the end of the season. We can't announce who yet, but there's a new manager in place. And then once that becomes clear, then you'll know. We've seen Eddie Howe appear on different TV channels alongside Jonathan Woodgate. I think it was when all this ESL stuff was getting banded about, and Jonathan Woodgate was touting him up for the Tottenham job. I know that's not his entry level now into the Premier League, but the longer you leave this, surely, William, the longer it seems like Eddie Howe is not going to be manager.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was nailed on at one point when we've seen Sky Sports announcing that there's been talks and stuff, but again, keep harking on. Nothing from Celtic, nothing from Howe and his representatives. The only thing we've heard from Howe's representatives is we're going to wait till the end of the season, which to me sounds like I'm going to leave my options open.
I don't think that's a bad thing, but in a way, if you're Eddie Howe, that's not a bad thing, because if you're
Eddie Howe, Celtic, it's a bad thing.
If you're Celtic, it's a bad thing, but also to Eddie Howe's representatives could be saying that the finer details of the contract might be trying to get ironed out. Say that there is something in the Eddie Howe to Celtic. If Eddie Howe's representatives maybe saying their things because they're trying to get more cash, more whatever, and Celtic maybe saying their things, so it's all about sort of not showing your best hand in that.
Yeah, that's not what we're trying to. What we're trying to say is, the board need to give us something. Just a wee.
I agree. The board need to give us something, but to say like because Celtic haven't said it's Eddie Howe and Eddie Howe's not said it's Celtic, there's probably reasons why they're saying that if it could be something as stupid as they're not sure the best hand.
But also Celtic haven't said Roy Keane's in, and Roy Keane's not said I'm not getting a Celtic job, so it could be anybody.
Roy Keane recently he feels the opportunities went.
But
that was rumoured. That was rumoured.
That was Roy Keane that said that, but
Roy Keane's the problem. He said the exact problem. It's just rumours for everybody.
It's rumours for everything. We're saying it's representatives, but do we know it was Eddie Howe's representatives that have said this? No, it's papers saying it's representatives.
Look, put it like this, right? Look at us now. Like, look at the situation we find ourselves now. Yes, right now on this podcast, we're at each other's throats, basically saying this is this is that. That I blame all the arguments the Celtic fans are having among each other on the board. I blame it all on them, and I get the fact that they're saying the due diligence and blah 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 blah. But this is coming from a board who appointed Neil Lennon while he was getting a wash in the shower. So
they left all the other candidates in the drawer.
Yeah. So you're looking at this, and what actually comes out of me most here, Francis, what if Celtic have put all their eggs in the Eddie Howe basket? It comes to the crunch, he says no. Where are we going? What we're doing?
I tell you what I think about that.
This is my point. They're putting themselves under immense pressure because we're waiting on a big name now. We're all waiting on Eddie Howe, let's face it. And now, if at the end of all this, they do announce Maresca or whoever else it is, I'm going to get the same sinking feeling I got when they announced Neil Lennon was going to be the manager in the showers. We won the Scottish Cup that day with the treble. I couldn't have been more overjoyed, and I'll never forget it. My friends and that, when it was announced, we all sort of felt deflated because it's not the man we wanted. We thought he's coming in just to tide things
Steady
over,
the ship, really.
steady the ship, and then we're going to go after another big name. We've just had Rodgers in charge, for goodness sake. This is, for me, it just screams like it's just going to be an absolute failure at the end of the season. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just being negative because of the last two performances and I'm feeling a bit. But they're putting in, I can't say it enough, they're increasing pressure on themselves. After all this due diligence, it's taken them 3 months or however long it's going to take. They need to get Eddie Howe. If they don't, there's going to be
Or there needs to be something better than Eddie Howe.
Aye.
It's see as well. You look at it in terms of the next manager situation. I'm going to bring up a point here, which I think is very vital. You look at these players, the likes of Carmelo Dembele, Armstrong Flex, even Cameron Harper, even though he's left, right? And he came out and said there was cliques and stuff forming in the Celtic dressing room, which is always bad. So that needs sorted out. The culture needs changed. But going back to these young players like Dembele, right? And if he's looking at this current situation, and actually as much Brown said it himself in the press conferences after he announced he left, he said the uncertainty kind of helped him make his mind up to go to Aberdeen next season. But surely to God, in-house even, the players should be told what's going on, so the players can make up their minds if they want to stay next season, if they're going to sign new contracts, if even the potential new manager coming in. You think to yourself, Francis, as well, if there's a manager agreed, surely to God he's looking behind the scenes of players he's wanting to keep. And if you're giving Dembele the likes of 20 minutes at the end of a meaningless game, it just points to the fact that there's been nothing agreed or there's been nothing told to the players. Surely.
No, I agree with that. I think if there is something in place that say we know who the manager or the board know who the manager's going to be for certain, I do believe the players should be told. And like say that might help youth want to stay and stuff like that. If they believe in that manager, if they don't, then by all means they may want to go and stuff. But I do agree the players should know if there is something in place. But we could go over it, say all this. It's always got to go back to the lack of sort of any news coming from the board. So a lot of these arguments are just got to go back to that. Like if the board come out and say something, then we might know. Like say if the board come out and say, oh well, we've got a manager in place, we can't name him now, but I've got a manager in place. But you saying maybe the players want to stay that, but that's kind of got to come back to the whole manager thing at the end of the day, and the fact that the board are not telling us or they're not saying anything. It's just got to keep coming back to that.
And see as well, can I just point something out to anybody who's listening and following us as well? We don't mean to be negative. I just want to live in a world where it's reality. I don't want to have my green tinted glasses all the time thinking things are rosy in the garden when they're absolutely not. And William, here's doomsday for you. Here's a doomsday scenario. So it comes to the Celtic announcement, right? They say John Kennedy. What's your reaction?
Fucking hell. Here we go again. It's not going to be John. It can't. It's surely there's no way it's going to be John Kennedy.
Surely.
It's not going to happen. See,
I think the cup finals kind of nailed it on for him not getting it. Surely, it's not the cup final, the cup game. Surely, has nailed it.
I think. See, one thing for me as well with discussing all this stuff. I think we've relied too much on our previous success with this team. Mm-hmm. Sir Alex Ferguson was the greatest in the world at spotting when he needs to rebuild a team. He did it countless times. Made countless big calls with selling big name players because he knew either it was affecting the dressing room or he just knew he needs to rebuild a team for 2 or 3 years' time. We've not done that. We've just looked at it and thought, well, this team's winning everything, so we'll just stick with them until it's went tits up, and that's exactly what's happened now.
Barcelona.
Exactly, and then look at us now. Like the summer's going to be massive. We were discussing it like off air before we came on. If the players we're talking about do leave, and the loan signings all leave, we're going to need to sign 10, 15 players. Easy.
Like, I can't say there's a loan player you could say deserves to be bought.
No.
Potentially, El Jadousa would fight for, but
I would argue.
Well,
I would maybe argue.
I'd argue for it. Fights, maybe.
But it's massive, and the fact that Champions League's not far away, and the new season's not far away, and we've not got a manager in place. I can't believe we're still talking about it after all this time. It is ridiculous. It's frustrating. It makes me angry. It makes me sad. I don't know how it's come to this after the last 4 seasons we've had. If you told me 2 or 3 seasons ago when Rodgers was in charge and we were flying, we were going to be where we are now, I'd have laughed at you. And again, it's just going back to this statement for the Green Brigade: don't fall asleep at the wheel. And it's exactly what the board have done. And we're sitting now with a team that's became stagnant. Players become stagnant. They don't look like they want to be here anymore. And it's overwhelming how big the task at hand is this summer.
Yeah, which is why I always bring it back to this time frame that we've seen. If Celtic were going to bring someone in, it should have been 8 weeks ago when Danny left the first week. I don't care what anybody says. They should have had replacements like that.
It was not like it was not just 2 or 3 bad results. We went, maybe
these guys are paid millions and millions and millions. There should be a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D for if anything happens. And when you start to see the signs, you need to start putting these things in place, and they've quite clearly not. They're just sitting and praying, hoping that Lennon turns it around.
I was just going to say that. I think it kind of goes to your point with because the team's won that much over 4 years. I just thought, we're going to get through this. We'll get through this.
I think another word as well that we've missed out is they've relied on sentimentality as well. They've kept players playing even though they don't deserve it.
Yeah, this is
what kept people on.
I discussed slightly earlier, like the likes of, and I am Callum McGregor's one of my favourite players. For me, I think he's going to go on and maybe be captain and stuff. He's another one massively underperformed this year, but there's nobody there they've put in to replace him to give him that kick up the arse to say, well, wait a minute, your place in this team isn't guaranteed. Same with Eddie. Yeah. Eddie's been resting his laurels far too long this season. For me, he's just looks so. It looks like he's not interested. I know, like I said, that's his style. He's not interested at all in the slightest. Christie underperforming. I'm a Christie fan. I know some others aren't underperforming, but we can't. He's not. He knows he's going to start every week.
Aye.
Yeah.
There's too many in the team like that, but then.
It actually brings me on nicely to the next topic I want to talk to you guys about. So we looked at it last night, and there was young players on the bench, potentially young players that were actually left behind as well in terms of the squad. So Francis, I'll go to you first there, right? If you were a young player at the moment at Celtic Football Club, you'd be rubbing your hands thinking, I can get my chance here, I can stake my claim for next season. But then it comes to these games, you're not even in the match day squad, or you're sitting on the bench just to warm up a seat. Why would you say at Celtic?
I suppose, it's just a repeated record. Obviously, if they knew who the manager was going to be, that would maybe tempt them to stay. But then obviously that goes back to the board and they sort that bit out.
I mean now, though. If you look at that team now.
Well, that's what's got. But, if you were a youth player, there is, like we've agreed as well, there's a rebuild on next season. So it's a good chance for you to maybe stake your claim and say, look, I can help you. I can be part of this team and that. But, you've also got to look at, and maybe these players just aren't good enough. Every youth player isn't good, is not good enough. And you can go back and Celtic's history. They'll bring a lot of players through. I'm not saying it's because it could be simply coaching and stuff, but
before you continue, Francis, I just want to come back to what you said there. I won't let you finish your point, but if Stephen Welsh didn't get his chance this season and got released at the end of his contract, you wouldn't have been bothered because you didn't know what type of player he was. So what's to say that these players who are sitting on the bench can't do the same as he's done?
No, there's nothing to say they can't, but there's nothing to say they can either, because I agree they're not getting a chance. But this season, as terrible as it sounds, it wasn't a season to give people a chance. We were going for history, real big history, try to get 10-0. You couldn't be relying on youth players to do it. And then also, if you look at the Patrick McNally and John Heron podcast that we've done recently, you need to have that attitude. Maybe these players haven't got that attitude. They touched it. There is a pathway. They alluded to it. There is a pathway into the first team. And maybe you obviously need the attitude, you need the ability, obviously, more than anything. But maybe just some of these players didn't have that. Maybe they've not got it, because as much as Stephen Welsh is getting his chance, the jury's still out for me with him. He's hardly put a foot wrong, I'll agree, but could I rely on him going forward? I don't know. I don't know. But
I get that. I totally what you're saying. 100%. Steve Welsh, he's a young prospect. He's not a teenager no more, so he's a young adult, and by all counts, he's signed his new contract. He's playing well, as you said, hasn't put a foot wrong. But William, surely if you look at it, we touched on Dembele, right? And then you look at our right hand side, you're playing Christie out of position if you're playing the 4-2-3-1. Why in these last 4 games, including last night's game against Aberdeen, could you not have put him in from the start? Or even Armstrong Ogilflex. I mean, the jury's out in him. I know he's a bit of a poser on Instagram and stuff, but this is a modern day footballer at a young age. Surely there has to be, in the last 3 games anyway, a pathway, as we said, just to get a 60 minutes. Even
there
the
is
first
a
half.
there is a pathway there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do get where you're coming from, but I'm based on how shite our first team have been. If our youth players are sitting on the bench or in the academy, and they're thinking to themselves, God, I could get a chance here. John Kennedy, as we've heard, by the way, on the interviews we've done, he's meant to favour the youth. So is he being told, William, do you think not to play these players and keep with the status quo? Or is it just a case of what Francis is saying, maybe they're just not cut out?
I've no idea. I think we should have been. We talk about this being a big season, but it was pretty much over by Christmas. So I don't know why we've not made a change. The saying goes, insanity is doing the same task over and over again and expecting different results. We've stuck with the same group of players for the past 4 or 5 months now. Even you can go back further than that, and there's been no results coming from it. That you need to change something. You can't tell me that Dembele's not been shown the little glimpses of brilliance that he was last night in training, running and attacking. We've been screaming out for width all year. Why not throw him give him 45 minutes in a league game against, no disrespect, one of the lower sides? Why not give him 45 minutes? Why not give him a chance? Same way, we're talking about the youth. I think there's a player in a Yeti, and I don't know why we're not. Obviously, we don't see behind the scenes. We don't see training every day. But when he first came in, we've discussed it. He was very much Gary Hooper-like, a goal scorer. And we're talking about right now, since Kennedy's came in, how we've been creating however many chances each game, countless chances, and we're not being clinical enough. This guy's a penalty box striker. He's a 6-yard. I would go as far as saying is if he had one of the chances that Edward had last night, he's busting the net. Again, we don't see what goes on behind the scenes, but I don't understand why we're sticking with this same group of players that have massively underperformed for so long. For me, I would have had a lot of the youth in months and months ago and seen what these guys can do. We've seen it with Stephen Welsh. Yes, he's not the finished article. Yes, he's not the future. Well, we could be the future, but he's not the here and now. But he's done a job. He's done well. He's earned a new contract. Why could that not work out for anybody else? Dembele has been touted as the biggest talent we've had since he was about 5-year-old. And see, it looked like he's bulked up a bit as well to me last night. I don't know what you guys think. He looked a bit. He had a bit more about him. So you're going to lose these guys, and they could end up going on and having wonderful careers. And this season of all seasons, especially the last few months, where the league's gone, it's beyond me why they've not tried another lineup, another formation, giving these guys a run, especially last night. Last night was just after that performance on Sunday. After that performance on Sunday, I would have made honestly about 8 changes and just gave some of the youth guys a run out. I'd have put Griffiths and Ayeti up front, and seen what these guys can prove they can do. Go and show your worth.
See, just to kind of touch, I agree we should have probably played some of the youth players earlier, considering the season was done months ago. But we keep going on about, the youth need a chance, The only player we seem to mention is Dembele. Who else is there? Yes, Welsh has got in, but you can't, you can't just be saying, let's give youth a chance, and you can't even chuck one out there. You can only
No,
chuck Dembele, and then
We've
you
not seen any of them.
I-
Dembele's
well,
the only one we know about.
Well, look at the Livingston and Hibs game. The youth that turned up that day, weren't they? Is that
I know, and Dembele still didn't get a chance then.
I agreed, but was he fit? I don't know if he was fit back then. I don't know. Possibly was in the bench. I don't know. But it's just
that was my.
we keep chucking the youth argument there, and we can't seem to chuck decent youth players out for it.
I disagree, and I have to disagree with you there, Francis.
I don't know how, because all you mention is Dembele.
You're saying you don't know any other player, but have you not seen the Celtic Twitter page with Conor Hazard signed a new deal, Montgomery signed a new deal, Dane Murray signed a new deal?
Yeah. Does it?
Do you know what I mean?
Where are they?
There must be potential in these guys, which is why I'm saying Celtic would be handing new deals to these youngsters if there wasn't potential. And right now, the bounce that they would have, the motivation after signing a new contract, why not chuck them in? Because
I'm not saying they shouldn't get a chance. I'm just saying the only name we seem to chuck out when we talk about the youth is Dembele.
See, to be fair, back then with the COVID situation and we had to play, Harper got a game, but it wasn't as many first team players missing as we still played our fringe players. Harper played. I think also Flex got about 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Yeah. We got Henderson. They were the only youth players that got a run out. We still had the fringe players. So they still didn't give the guys a chance. So it's not a matter of, well, they didn't perform when they played, because there was only 2 or 3 of them and they didn't even get the full game.
Yeah,
but then does that maybe just go back to they're no good enough?
Look, we can talk about this all day, right?
But because
I just don't. I believe, you know, guys, everywhere I talk about the youth. Do you know what I mean? Even in the interviews,
I always think you should give youth a chance.
Yeah,
and especially a club that's, you should always be trying to promote your youth. I agree with that, but
we've seen John Candy rave about young Montgomery in training, and he's been on match day squad benches, and he hasn't got a sniff. Why? You have to ask these questions.
That's a question to ask Kennedy. That's a question that Kennedy should be answered.
Also, some of the greatest players in the world for the last however many years are horrendous trainers, and then when it comes to match day, they perform. Mm-hmm. How are you going to know these guys can't perform if they're never given a chance?
But that's not a question for us free to answer. That's a question you need to ask, but Kennedy needs to answer.
Yeah, well, that's what we're discussing.
It's
what we're here to do. We discuss that stuff.
It's a question. It's a question for us to debate. Yeah. And I think if we all disagree on it, that's fine. But my standing point is, I've seen John Candy speak about Montgomery, about Dane Murray, about Conor Hazard, and these guys haven't been anywhere to be seen apart from a few sub benches, and they haven't even got on the pitch. I just think for me,
Conor Hazard's played a big part this season in games. But
I get that, but
I don't know what the deal is with that. How he's just suddenly just kicked out it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. He's just been kind of left in the wilderness again, and he's just signed a new contract and he's benched, and you're like, what's the point in that? I mean, Bain, for me, he's not going to be a Celtic keeper going forward. No. I do agree.
I don't think Conor Hazard is, but again, like the season was done, it was a good. You give him the cup final for the quadruple treble.
Yes.
It was he won. He scores. He didn't have the greatest game, but then he's remembered for saving the penalty. So he's on a high. I reckon we should have just stuck with him. As much as I've stuck up for Barkas and tried to say I believe there's a keeper in there. I just thought that was a perfect opportunity to just go, right, Hazard, let's see what you've got then. Let's see what you've got. It's pretty much done. See what we've got.
For me, Conor Hazard is a good addition with 2 quality keepers. Do you know what I mean? A good free picks to choose from, whether it's in league competitions, cup competitions, etc. But moving on, because we could have talked about the youth all day. I think we all got our point across there. But moving on, right? So there's less than 90 days that the Champions League qualifying rounds with Celtic will be a part of at the moment. William, are you confident?
Nope. I think we'll be lucky we've got a first 11 by then, with the way things are going. Also, we've talked about how we think it's going to be a massive turnover. These guys are going to have time to gel in that time. And it's like, these qualifying stages are, like we've seen in the past, there's no gimmies. They're all difficult, tough games. I'm about as confident in us qualifying as I am the board coming out tomorrow and telling us who the new manager is.
That's a very good way to put it, to be honest, William. I don't know about yourself, Francis. These Champions League qualifiers to me are going to be more difficult because we're in the not the Champions route, we're in the other route, which means we could face potential champions of other nations. And I don't know about yourself. for me, at the moment, as it stands, as William said, and I want to bring up something as well. When Rodgers came in, he didn't have a big, massive rebuild to do. He took what Ronnie Daly had done and brought it to a new level with the likes of Armstrong, and then Christie came on the scene, and then Sinclair, wee bits of quality here and there. But this new manager literally has to build a squad from a skeleton squad. So
and remember, Rodgers got beaten his first qualifier off a pub team as well.
Yeah, 100%. So where do you stand on the qualifying? Would you?
I'm going to totally disagree with the Biffies.
Oh.
I'm only joking. No. I said in the past we've been lucky at times to get through, and that's when we've had a more steady sort of a ship, if you like. And it's just, I think William summed it up right. Personally, it's just I'm not confident at all going into them. And then you've got to factor in the Euros as well. You potentially could be shopping in. You're not going to be shopping in the top end of the market there, but there could be players that are playing in the Euros that you're in for, and they've got to be ready. They're not going to need a break in that for the first qualifying round. It looks brilliant.
But we were lucky if we signed. Like Celtic have always, the history is, let's see if
gambled a wee bit.
Let's see if we can qualify. Then we'll maybe put our hands in our pockets.
Yeah.
It'll be
we'll go on again.
It seems to me it's going to be the exact same again this year. And
I think it's got to get that bit away.
Well, we might even fall at the first hurdle, never mind the third hurdle or whatever we've done in the past few years. The inability to get some sort of organisation and to have somebody in, as I really think it's going to really affect us at the start of the season.
I totally agree. And for me, I can't see.
We're finally agreed on a subject tonight.
Yeah, I know it's groundbreaking. I might use that as the title of the show.
Everybody might not think we're totally dour and against Celtic.
But I'm just not confident. I can't see us making any inroads in European competition this season. To be honest, it's for me the longer that's been left, it's a total rebuild. It is. It's just massive because you're missing heads of recruitment, you're missing scouting. You're missing the director of football if we're to believe that's going to happen, and most importantly, you're missing the manager. So it's mammoth.
Potentially a spine of a team.
Yeah, a whole spine of a team's leaving, and you're losing the quadruple winning captain Scott Brown as well. So that's another big jigsaw piece that needs to be put in place when the new manager comes in to find them replacements. But moving on, because I mean we're all pretty rounded in that we're not too confident. And again, I'm going to say it again. We're not being negative. We're just living in reality. I think we all can say it as Celtic fans, and we always say we want the best for our club. We love our club.
100%.
We want it back on top.
You can't sugarcoat everything. You can't sugarcoat everything.
The alternative is the new manager could come in and hit the ground running, and we could just, you know what I mean. But it's just at this point in time, and I think the fact that
sorry, keep going, William. Sorry.
The fact that we're like I say, we're so unorganised. It just points to we're going to have next to no time to get a new squad of players in and to gel. It's like Stephen said, it's a mammoth task. This is the most important summer in God knows how long.
I think since Martin O'Neill.
Over 10 years anyway. Easy.
Yep. And also as well, I mean, we've pointed it out. We've said it since we started our podcast. I think every podcast, every Celtic news outlet, alternative news fan media, this task is massive. And the longer it's been left, the confidence that we had for the start of next season is slowly but surely draining. But holding out the hope that the new manager, whoever it may be, hits the ground running, then, as William said before in the show, all's forgotten about. Or Francis, sorry.
Totally agree, because I think if folk enjoy your show, then now when a lot of it, we're dour. Wait till we're winning, man. Wait till we're winning.
I know. See for me, see if it does get announced that Howe's taken over, then I wouldn't say all is forgiven, but a lot's forgiven, because all the names that have been touted about, there's genuinely nobody else there that gets me excited.
Yeah.
But before we move on, one thing that I think majority of Celtic fans will agree on, we can never forgive the board for this season. They fell asleep at the wheel. They let the thing go down the pan, and again, the no communication, the fans still putting their money in their pockets to watch Celtic, support Celtic, pay for pay-per-view streams and different club channels, BT Sports, Sky Sports. It all adds up. But moving on.
To be fair, I think the board thing sort of it was like, because I think in the summer the board didn't sleep at the wheel. In the summer they made big signings in the summer. but I agree that hindsight's a great thing.
I think it's easy when you're at the top to rest on your laurels. Like I said before, these
but
guys.
I don't think we did in the summer. We made big signings in the summer.
But even if that's the case, there needs to be a plan B, C, D, E,
I
F,
agree
right
with
through
that.
to Z. So
I agree with that. But off the bat, the board done good in the summer.
Right.
On the face of it.
I'll give you that, but this is not a hindsight podcast. I'm speaking here and now. It's a shambles, and I think yes, in the summer we were backed. I think £20 million upwards of that was spent on players and different loan fees, which is massive for a Celtic board to do. But again, if the right recruitment was in place and the right channels were going down, would that have happened? Do you know what I mean? You're bringing in these players like Shane Duffy. Someone should have known that the pace of the Scottish game could have been too much for him because he's always sitting at the edge of his box for Brighton. I can see these things, but again, when them makes the signings are announced, you have to get excited about it, and I'll give the board that they did back us in the summer. But
it's not so much the signings for me. They put their hands in their pockets in the summer, but it's Lennon should have went long before he did.
I
should have had somebody in long before then as well, when we could have salvaged this season. Like at that point,
that's when the board Lennon left. That's when the board takes a hit, really.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you guys, but we're going to move on, okay? So I've added a new segment to this show, I think just for this show especially because of how the shows went and stuff. We had to discuss all the negative points that surround the Celtic Football Club in a minute, but I want to bring it into something a bit more positive before we end. So I give you guys a wee task, a hope for next season, and from each one of us, by the way, so we're all going to get our speaking part in this. I'll go to you, Francis, first. What's a hope for you as a fan next season?
I'll keep it pretty short. Just simply pretty much want to compete in all competitions we're in. Just because I don't think we've done that at all this season. Not competed at all. I mean, it goes without saying, I hope we get the league back. I really hope we get the league back, especially with, I think, the winners of next season go straight into the Champions League. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it's working.
You're correct, yeah.
So I think it's important that we win the league. I don't want to sound and say like it's not the BNO, it is the BNO and end because second in Scotland's last at the end of the day. But I want to compete. I just want to compete and then play better in Europe. Because I think we need to get our name back a wee bit in Europe and get a wee bit more respect there. But just short and sweet like that. Just compete.
Yeah, I think as well what you're saying there, the compete side of things, that's all we ever asked for. And if we competed this season and it came up to the final game, we just didn't win the league. You could go fair enough. We tried our best, but that's not what happened. For me, my hope for next season would be getting the right manager in place, giving them time to get a stamp on the squad, getting the right players in, bonding that team together, and this is not me being thing here, but that may take longer than people think because a literal new team of players bonding together can take a while.
Yeah,
I want us to compete. I want us to try and be strong in Europe. I know we've discussed it before, but I still hold out the hope that maybe we can qualify for one of the competitions and put our name forward in the European side of things. I want us to compete for the league and the domestic trophies. And I just want it back to the Celtic Football Club we love. And that's my side of things. I just want Celtic Football Club back where it should be. What about yourself, William?
Yeah, pretty much the same. If I'm going to be specific, I want Eddie Howe to be announced. I want him to put his philosophy in the squad. I want us playing the Glasgow Celtic way, the way we all love, attacking, high pressure and intensive wingers, running at defenders, scoring goals, and a run in Europe would be lovely. But to be honest with you, we've used both touching it there. Need to get this league championship back, and it's even more important now with the whole Champions League qualification thing the season after next. Yeah, I just want us to play the Glasgow Celtic way again, so I can sit with a beer with my feet up and enjoy the football instead of with my head in my hands.
Ruining your weekend.
Yeah, my wife would like that too because I might be getting a divorce soon if we keep losing. so we need to play the Glasgow Celtic way. That's all I'm wanting. And you know what? I'd like to see a few more homegrown players coming through as well. That would be nice.
Yeah, and that's ever good enough. No, Francis, don't get him started. No, but like I'm with you guys. As I said before, we just want the best, and we started this podcast just us lads having a chat about the club we all love. And again, it's our opinions. People disagree with it, and I love disagreements. If people disagree with what we're saying, let us know, and we'd be happy enough to debate anything. I think it's what's key. If another thing as well that I like to point out, Celtic fan media this year has really took off. It's really took off in all sectors, alternative media, podcast, and fan scenes. It's all coming back now because no one's believing the shite that's coming out of Celtic Park at the minute. And this platform is for everybody who's following us, everyone who's listening, and the new followers that are going to come along as well. It's for all you guys. And what we're going to do now, what we always do on our shows, we're going to end on a quiz.
Well, can I just touch on something as well? Like, but I don't want us to come across sound like spoilt brats in that, because we've won things out the park for 10 years. Like I grew up watching the 9-0 era. This is no me just being a spoilt brat because we've thrown the toys out the pram. It's just we generally just do think Celtic are in a bad way. We're not want to just sound like all we know is Celtic winning. Like certain folk in that might think it is. It's just we just sound like spoilt wins because one season we've not won anything. So it's just really to say that.
Yeah, well, that's the problem though. If we did perform at a decent level this year or a very good level, and we were pipped to the post, I think we would all take our hats off and say, you know what, the better team won. But because we haven't pushed the Rangers in any way this year, that's the biggest disappointment, and that's why we're all complaining. But who enjoys losing? Everybody hates losing, man.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, bring it on to end the show. You made a good point there.
Ask one of us to end in 5 minutes who enjoys losing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The person who enjoys losing the most is John, my co-host, definitely. That's the reason he's ducked out of this podcast. The quiz gets too much. He starts sweating. But we're going to move on to the quiz, guys. Basically, 5 questions. You know the drill. First to 3, whatever he answers the most wins. So, are you ready to crack on?
Well, can I just say so? This could really put to bed Ross's delayed theory, because it was on with you, William, wasn't it? Where he claimed the delay. So there we go. It's a different guy, different headset on all that.
Right, calm and composed, boys. Is ready?
Oh, yeah, ready.
Right, question 1. Which club did Paul Lambert leave to sign for Celtic?
Bruce Dortmund.
Francis got it.
That was funny there. I'll give you that, mate.
Lubo Murazovic didn't play in Martin Lee's first 2 games. Why?
Because he was injured?
Nope. One more guess.
Suspended?
Yep. That's Franny too.
Oh.
He was suspended from the previous season.
Total guess.
Just a Zimmer frame because he was so
he was suspended from the previous season, so you said suspended, I'll give you it.
It could only be suspended if it wasn't injured, really, surely.
Who scored Celtic's first goal in European competition under Martin O'Neill?
Bobby Peters.
Oh, what's...
Nope. One more guess. Nope.
Something.
I got.
Nope. Moving on. Both wrong.
Who was it?
Lubo Murazovic.
Oh my Jesus.
Right. Young start at the time, Sean Maloney got his first league goal for Celtic on which SPL ground in September 2001?
Oh.
Tannadice?
Nope. William?
Tynecastle.
No, one more guess for both of you. Come on.
Dens Park?
Francis, you brought it home.
Aye. Fucking Google.
No, it was as if you hear when I said Tannadice, it was a wee, oh. So I had a feeling it was pretty close. I had a feeling it was a close one.
You've got the quiz this week, Francis. Well done.
That's shocking. I feel like however Celtic feel at the end of the game.
I was chucking 2 Lubo Murazovic ones and was fly one.
You have to switch it up sometimes, don't you? And again, guys, thanks for coming on. Have you enjoyed this podcast? I think it was a brilliant one, to be honest.
It was good.
I always like it when there's a bit of debate and a bit of disagreement.
It's better that way.
Yeah. And for me as well, guys, the debate's what it's all about. Never one is agreeing with each other. I think that does defeats the point of coming on and speaking.
I think it'll be good one time if we all it'll be alright at some point. Can't be all bad, surely.
I'm moving to the dark side because I think I agreed with Stephen a lot more tonight. I like this.
He's finally getting some pals.
In that group I have no friends, but this to me, this is the listeners who's listening. I want to thank you all, literally, because we at End the Celts podcast didn't expect half the support we've received, especially in this early stage. That we recently hit a milestone of our 20th podcast, and now is our 21st podcast. That's massive for us. We're growing on every platform, whether it be Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Twitter. We're on there. We've got a presence on there, and it's a big thanks to you guys. And I just want to make you aware that we do have other things in the podcast too. So we've got our special guest series, which I've interviewed David Webb, I've interviewed John Heron and Patrick McNally, both ex-Celtic football players. We've got the spin-off shows that my guest tonight, Williams, hosted one of them, the Notes 11, which is fantastic. It's a good laugh as well. And then Anthony, a regular show contributor, is 21st Century Boys, another brilliant show to our spin-off series. And then the added addition to that as well, then the Celts Rewind, where we focus on past seasons of glory and triumph and try and bring a bit of happiness back to the Celtic supporters. And we'll be getting one out pretty soon, focusing on Martin O'Neill's first season. So that's one to look forward to. And just a big thank you to you guys again for coming on. I think I echo for all the lads in the podcast anyway. We appreciate all the support and every comment, every follow. We really appreciate it. And we'll have some really big guests lined up. So stay tuned, folks. And until the next time, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.